Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Initial NBA podcast. What's up? It's CJ, your host. I guess this episode we're just going to talk in-season tournament, right? We've already talked about the group stage, good, bad, ugly, what needed to change there. That's in the last episode. If you want to go listen to that. This time we're going to talk about the knockout rounds. Just kind of go over, what occurred, how we got there, how we ended up with champ. And then give some like winners losers of the entire in-season tournament as a whole, and then just touch on the all tournament teams. So here we go. All right, your first ever in-season tournament champs, the Los Angeles Lakers. I mean, if you were to just say which franchise won the first ever in-season tournament 30 years from now, and you were guessing, Lakers probably a pretty safe bet. And look what happened. It was the Lakers. So I guess let's start going over the game results. Figure out who beat who, how we got here, and just kind of touch on these games real quick before we talk about kind of more bigger picture stuff. So starting off the quarterfinals, we had the Lakers and the Suns. Lakers ended up winning by 3, 106-103. By far, this was definitely the most controversial game, not just of the knockout tournament, or knockout rounds, but probably the entire in-season tournament. In the last couple seconds, the Lakers ended up winning the game. After being given a timeout, they definitely should not have gotten, if you go by the rules. So breakdown of what happened. The Lakers were up 105-103 with about 11 seconds left, with the Lakers inbounding the ball, right? So obviously they want to get the ball in bounds. They want to get fouled. They want to make their free throws. Boom, they win the game, right? LeBron ends up inbounding the ball to Austin Reeves, who's immediately trapped by Booker and Durant. You can probably argue that Reeves got bumped by Booker and should have been a foul anyway, but it wasn't called a foul. So Booker, KD end up trapping Reeves. In that trap, Reeves does end up losing the ball. But right as the ball is squirting loose, and probably half a second after the ball squirts loose, LeBron's calling a timeout, kind of on the other side of the floor. So they're all in the backcourt, but the other side of the floor, closer to the benches. The refs end up giving LeBron that timeout, and the Lakers end up keeping possession. This is definitely, we've seen a lot of bad ref jobs this year. Players getting thrown out for no reason. Just bad calls in general. This is probably a bad call in general, and I understand this was kind of a bang bang play type of thing. But the Lakers, looking at the video, should not have gotten that timeout. But anyway, they end up retaining possession, even though it probably was a steal or potential steal, I guess, by the Suns. They end up hitting a free throw. They end up winning 106-103. It's one of those things where, yeah, it sucks that a game came down to a crappy call, which is refs are human. This stuff's going to happen. So things like that, I'm not really too upset about. When it comes to refs, it's more of the power tripping type stuff that rubs me the wrong way. Like we've seen it this year with Giannis and Jokic getting ejected for basically no reason. So this missed call wasn't one that I'm super upset about. Just because this is more of a, oh hey, I kind of messed up, rather than, hey, I'm doing something to swing the game on purpose type of feel. Credit to Kevin Durant, who understands that, you can't blame the loss on one call. If the game comes down to one call, that means there's a lot of opportunities throughout that game to make it so that one call doesn't matter. So credit to Kevin Durant for not, just ripping into the referees after the game, like I think some players would do. For Phoenix, just, high level stats. Durant had 31 on 12 of 17 shooting, so good efficiency there. Grayson Allen and Devin Booker had 21 each. And then Booker led the team with 11 rebounds and also had 6 assists. So that's a pretty good all-around Booker game, who, ever since coming back from injury, I think he's had like 1 or 2 stinkers, but besides that, he's been, the all-star Booker we know. For the Lakers, LeBron had 31 points, 8 rebounds, 11 assists. 80 at 27 points, 15 rebounds. Austin Reeves, 20 points off the bench. Those are expected games from those 3 guys. So, good showing by LA. LA ended up jumping out to a very early lead in this game. Phoenix ended up having 10 turnovers in the first quarter. Phoenix eventually did come back in the third, cut the lead to 1 going into the fourth. And then LeBron kind of took over in the fourth. He scored 15 of his 31 points in the fourth. So this is kind of a vintage LeBron taking the game over near the end when it was getting close. And then obviously it's kind of scarred by this bad granted timeout. Again, this is a one that, the refs are human. They're going to make those types of mistakes. It's frustrating, yeah, but it's the power tripping stuff some of these referees have been doing that is the bad officiating that bothers me. So yeah, that's how the Suns ended up losing to the Lakers. So entertaining one there. The other West quarterfinal game, you had the Pelicans and the Kings. Pelicans won 127-117. The Pelicans basically had just like they got an all around game from everybody. All of their starters outside of Zion. Everyone ended up scoring double figures of their starters. Ingram had 30 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists. Herb Jones had 23 off the bench. I don't think he was off the bench. Just kidding. He had 23 regardless. Zion had only 10 points on 5 of 8 shooting. If your star, I guess if we're still calling Zion a star, if your star only has 5 of 8 shooting and isn't really necessarily contributing in other ways, that's a problem, right? Your number one option in almost every case should be shooting 12 to 16 times minimum, right? Like in that range. More is acceptable. Less, you're kind of like, eh. There are exceptions. When Jokic only takes 8 shots, but they win by 30 like they did against the Mavericks last night, I'm not too upset about that. But yeah, this is a bad Zion game. He's super passive. He had the least amount of shots of any starter, which, again, if you're the superstar, that should not happen. For them, the big difference makers were Trey Murphy and Jose Alvarado off the bench. Murphy had 16 points. Alvarado had 9, but they were plus 24 and plus 19 respectively in the plus minus. So they ended up really carrying their bench minutes, and that ended up being the difference. For the Kings, Sabonis had a great game, triple-double, 26 points, 13 rebounds, 10 assists. Fox had 30 points, so a good scoring game from him. But 6 turnovers, not great. Only shot 10 to 25 from the field, so that efficiency is not super great. Malik Monk, he had good counting stats if you look at points, things like that, but he was a minus 17 overall in the game when you look at plus minus. So, but that also, obviously contributes to the bench of the Pelicans, kind of taking it to the bench of the Kings in this one. For the East quarterfinals, you had the Bucks and the Knicks. The Bucks ended up winning, putting up 146 to the Knicks 122. The Bucks dominated this game in the second half. Giannis had 35, 10 assists, 8 rebounds to go with 3 steals. Lillard had 28 points, 7 assists. So good all-around games there. And then the Bucks also got double figures from Middleton, Malik Beasley, Bobby Portis, and Campaign. So it wasn't just Giannis and Lillard killing the Knicks here. It was basically all of the rotation pieces for the Bucks. And the Knicks actually got a really good scoring game from Julius Randle. He dropped 41 points in this one. I know to start the season, he had a really, really, really tough shooting percentages. I actually didn't note what his shooting percentages were in this one, but he dropped 41, which had been pretty good for him this year. But he was also at minus 21 in this game. So, he might have scored a bunch, but there's definitely some deficiencies elsewhere. Brunson had 24, Barrett had 23. The rest of the Knicks were very meh. That's probably a big reason why they got blown out in this one. The Knicks got absolutely smoked defensively. The Bucks shot 60% from the field and 60% from 3 in this game. Remember that the Knicks are, at least at the time of this knockout round, I've been looking at the numbers lately. They're one of the best defenses in the NBA when it comes to scoring. So for the Bucks to put up 146 against what at the time was kind of a top 5 scoring defense, that's impressive. Especially when it wasn't all coming from Lillard or Giannis going off for 60 or whatever. They had pretty normal scoring games for them with 35 and 28 between the two. All right, that's East quarterfinal 1. The other East game, we had the Pacers Celtics. Pacers 112, Pacers 122, Celtics 112. This was the Tyrese Halliburton show, which is was the theme of the entire tournament. It was during this game, Halliburton had his first career triple double, 26 points, 10 rebounds, 13 assists. Also had 0 turnovers. So you're talking a guy that's stuff in the stat sheet and not in the bad ways, like some triple double guys. Not gonna name names. Pacers overall had a super balanced scoring offense. They had 7 guys score at least 12 points. So Halliburton has a triple double, 26 points, and then they have 6 other guys scoring in double figures, scoring at least 12. That's pretty much that's the definition of a team effort, a team win. With that one guy leading the charge. Celtics in this one didn't shoot great from 3, 12 of 41. That's not fantastic. That's less than 30%. Jaylen Brown at 30 points, 9 rebounds. Tatum at 32 points, 12 rebounds, 6 assists. Pretty good games by them. But yeah, they ended up losing to the Pacers by 10. Now let's get to the semifinals. This one, I'm take a drink for this one. So this game I didn't end up watching. I didn't start watching until the fourth quarter. I turned the TV on right when they were coming back from a commercial to start the fourth quarter. And the first words I heard from the broadcast was something along the lines of, "And the benches have been cleared by both coaches." And I'm like, what the hell happened here? This one was a stomping by the Lakers. They beat the Pelicans 133-89. If you're doing the math at home, that's a difference of 44 points. The end of the third quarter, it was 110-71. So I ended up not even wasting my time watching this game live. I watched the the clips afterwards. LeBron led the way, 30 points, 8 assists. AD had 16 points, 15 rebounds. The Lakers shot 54% from the field, 48% from 3, so damn good shooting by them. The Pelicans were about the complete opposite. They shot 35% from the field and 22% from 3. Pelicans' leading scorer was Trey Murphy with 14 points. You're not going to win a lot of games when your leading scorer is scoring 14 off the bench. And then Zion had 13 and looked horrific. All 5 Pelicans were minus 22 or worse in the plus minus. So yeah, not a whole lot to say about this one. The Lakers killed the Pelicans to kind of stamp their ticket into the in-season tournament finals. The other semifinal game, the one in the East, you had Pacers-Bucks. Pacers ended up winning 128-119. This again was the Tyrese Halliburton show, a theme of the tournament, as we all saw. He finished with 27 points, 15 assists, 7 rebounds, and again, 0 turnovers. So he's not only dishing, he's not only scoring, he's not only grabbing rebounds, but he's also not turning the ball over, which, damn, Tyrese Halliburton's good. Miles Turner had a good game, 26 points, 11 rebounds. This game was won with the bench. Despite the Halliburton game and Miles Turner playing really good, Pacers ended up outscoring the Bucks 45-13. If you're doing the math at home, that's a 32-point difference. Giannis was awesome, scored 37 with 10 rebounds. Middleton and Dame were fine. They were okay. They weren't amazing. They weren't bad. But then, it came down to the bench, and then Halliburton, he had a really big 3 with less than a minute left to put the Pacers up 8. This one, if you remember, he gave the little tap the wrist Dame time celebration. I know some people were raw, he did the guy's celebration, but Dame was actually cool about it, which is kind of refreshing because a lot of athletes like to just find ways to be insulted when they're not. So Dame gave credit. He understands that, when you have that signature celebration like he does, if you get beat, they're going to do it back at you. That's just competition in sports. So credit to Dame for understanding that and not getting too upset about Halliburton breaking out the whole Dame time thing after hitting a big 3 near the end of the game. I've always known I like Dame Lillard. This just helps reinforce that, even though we played for the Trailblazers, who I hate as a Nuggets fan. So good on Dame there. Then we have the in-season tournament finals. Lakers ended up winning 123-109 against the Pacers. This was the first game, or seemed like the first game, that anyone had really slowed down Indiana's offense and the Tyrese Halliburton show, especially in the in-season tournament. Lakers led this one throughout the entire game. Indiana did keep it close though, essentially just kind of within striking distance throughout the entire game. Lakers, no surprise here, led by their big three. LeBron had 24 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists. Ended up with a game high plus 19 in the plus minus. Anthony Davis was a freaking monster in this one. 41 points, 20 rebounds, 5 assists, and 4 blocks. That's a monster Anthony Davis game. It makes you wish he did this more, at least when he's not against your team. And then Austin Reeves at 28 points off the bench. That move for Austin Reeves moving on to the bench that was a good decision. He has seemed to thrive, even though he plays awesome with LeBron. I think that bench thing is kind of working for him. Even though I would consider him kind of the third in their big three, because you have to have one, right? You can't not have a big three. For Indiana, Halliburton ended up struggling in this one compared to where he's kind of been all year. 20 points, 11 assists. The Lakers held Indiana to 36% shooting from the field and 24% from three, which, given Indiana, this year's kind of been the best offense in the NBA, that's a really impressive defensive showing by the Lakers. So there you go. Lakers end up winning the first ever in-season tournament. They won all that money. Now let's talk about who won MVP. And I think it's fitting. I do think it's fitting that LeBron James ended up winning MVP for the tournament. Remember, this was tournament MVP. It was not finals game MVP. If you're looking at the finals game or the in-season tournament final game, it would have been Anthony Davis in that case. But yeah, I have no issue with LeBron winning this MVP for the tournament. If the game was swamped and the Pacers won, it would have been Halliburton. I think he ended up finishing second, I want to say, in the voting. But yeah, LeBron, best player, best team, or best player on the best team, at least when it comes to the tournament. He controlled every game, put up really good shooting and really good stats. Averaged, and these are just rough averages, 26 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists, and 1.5 steals on 56% shooting. And this is the one that got me. 60% from three. So over those 7 games, he shot 60% from three. We don't see LeBron as a great 3-point shooter, but for whatever reason, these 7 games he was hot. He also averaged a plus 16.6 for the plus minus. So well deserved MVP. Again, you're talking about the second best player all time. I think is pretty safe to say. Some people have him first. I don't personally, but second best player of all time. It's pretty fitting. He wins the first IST championship and the first IST tournament MVP. Let's just talk about the all tournament team. We're gonna just go through all the things. We'll do all tournament team, and then we'll talk about some winners, losers. All tournament team, LeBron James. Yeah, no shit. He won the MVP, won the champion. Won the. I guess you can call it a title. Is that what we're calling it? The trophy? We're gonna call it the trophy. He won the trophy. Best player on the best team. No inclusion. Tyrese Halliburton, again, another obvious inclusion in this. He would have won tourney MVP if the Pacers ended up winning that final game. Averaged 26 points, 13 assists, 5 rebounds, and 1.3 steals with only 2 turnovers. So that's just ridiculous. That's ridiculous. With how much he handles the ball to only average 2 turnovers a game. That's insane. Anthony Davis was the third inclusion in the all tournament team. It makes sense, right? Davis, Halliburton, and LeBron are the correct 3 guys, right? If you're looking at, hey, who made it to the final? Who are the 3 guys of those 2 teams that deserve to be on this all tournament team? It's Davis, Halliburton, and LeBron. Those are the correct answers. He ended up averaging 23 points, 14.6 rebounds, 2.9 blocks, and 3 assists. And then obviously had that giant 40-20 game in the final. The other guys, Giannis was the 4th guy on the all tournament team. Again, another good inclusion. The Bucks made it to the semis or the East Finals, whatever you want to call them. He ended up playing in 6 games. Obviously, the final teams played 7, so played about as many games as he could. Averaged 29 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists. Shot 64% from the field. So good counting stats, good efficiency. Makes sense. The last one was the one that at first I was a little confused. Kevin Durant ended up being voted onto the team. At first, he was the only one. I'm like, really? He made the all-tournament team? Because he ended up losing in the first round of the knockout stages, right, against the Lakers. But when you consider kind of the 4 teams that made it to the semis, right? Kevin Durant probably makes sense, right? So you have the Lakers and the Pacers. You have 3 guys from between those 2 teams. You have Giannis from the Bucks. Okay, cool. Lillard was good, but probably wasn't quite as good as KD was. And then there's really no one else on the Bucks you'd even consider for this all tournament team. And then the other team that was in the semis was the Pelicans. And there's no one on the Pelicans that you're like, oh yeah, that guy was better than KD during that 5 to 6 game stretch. So Kevin Durant's inclusion actually makes perfect sense when you look at this. Even though at first I was like, he didn't even make it to the conference finals of this thing for his side, but KD's deserving. And again, look at the stats: 34.5 points, 7 rebounds, 7 assists, 60% from the field, and even crazier, 69 nice percent from 3. That's ridiculous 3-point shooting. So this all tournament team, the names they chose makes perfect sense to me. A lot of times we do these, all NBA, all defense, MVP, whatever. We do this voting, and we're like, yeah, they screwed up. But I think for the in-season tournament, between the MVP and the all tournament team, I think they got it right. It's weird to say because that almost never happens. Now let's talk about winners and losers for the whole thing. All right, we'll talk winners first. Start on a high note, and then we'll start with the sad stuff. Winners, we have LeBron. Duh, right? Seems fitting that kind of the best player of this generation, the second best player all time. He's the guy that ends up winning the first ever championship, and then ends up winning tournament MVP. So yeah, 100% fitting that LeBron, kind of won what he did in this. It seems like he was super locked in, and it makes him a winner in all this, right? It's not, he doesn't really need to prove anything else. He's already the second best player of all time. I will not hear an argument or any argument for him less than 4. I think it's MJ, it's LeBron, and then you probably have Bill Russell because of all the rings, right? So anyone else, I will not entertain that discussion. He has nothing. LeBron has nothing else to prove. But even at age 39, he's still one of the best players in the league, especially when the games matter. And it's truly incredible what he's doing at age almost 39 here in 10 days or whatever, because I think he turns 39 at December 31st or something like that. So LeBron, winner, duh. Tyrese Halliburton, another winner, yes, duh. To start the season, especially the tournament, he's making that leap to superstar. I think there's kind of 2 guys in the NBA that are making that leap from fringe all-star level guys to kind of the superstar. You could start talking about them top 12 in the NBA. Tyrese Halliburton, along with Anthony Edwards, are those are the 2 guys. And this in-season tournament, I think, has a lot to do with that for Tyrese Halliburton. We saw Anthony Edwards over the summer. He had a lot of buzz. But Tyrese Halliburton's kind of doing it in the season. And he's making that leap. The tournament was it was a fantastic way for more casual fans to see him play. He plays in Indiana. They're not getting many, if any, national televised game. I honestly don't know if they have any this year. I haven't looked, but it can't be many. The team that come playoff time, if they're in the first round, that's a great success for them for this season, right? We're not expecting much out of them. So for Indiana to make it as far as they did in this tournament is a great way for kind of more casual fans who are not they don't live in Indiana to see one of the best young players in the NBA. And then the other thing is, this tournament, in-season tournament, it gave Halliburton and the Pacers kind of just a little taste of what playoff basketball is like, which that's never a bad thing. A lot of times when we talk about who's going to win the championship, who are the favorites, those teams we always say are the favorites, they've always gone through at least a handful of playoff series together, made runs in the playoffs. So just having any kind of experience that's more playoff like is always going to be beneficial. All right, the last winner, the NBA in general. That's the last winner in this. The tournament did exactly what they wanted. They got people talking about basketball in November and December. Yeah, there are some things that should be tweaked. But it did make people care more. The little tweaks are not anything big, I don't think. And especially the biggest thing is the players bought in. The IST, the in-season tournament concept, it doesn't work if the players don't give a shit. So the fact the NBA was able to, to get the players to buy in, and I think, LeBron and some of the other stars in the league are really, really important for that. The NBA is a winner in that. I think the IST will continue to be a thing year in, year out, be a thing that people and players care about. And it'll make basketball entertaining in November, December, when it's just kind of like a slog sometimes. Last part, let's talk about the losers. One loser, Zion Williamson. So the Pelicans definitely overachieved in this whole in-season tournament thing, right? They made it to the semifinals or the West Finals, whatever you want to call them. But Zion's just been getting roasted. Like how the national attention for Halliburton was great. The national attention for Zion has been horrible for him. He's been just getting roasted basically by everybody for looking out of shape. And I'm not gonna say that he did look out of shape. And his numbers just kind of back it up in those knockout games. But that sucks that he has to kind of go through that, and maybe he doesn't listen, which probably shouldn't if it was him. But it's some of the criticisms of him kind of been a bit too far in some ways. Some media personalities have been kind of more assholes than they really need to be. Looking at Stephen A. Smith. But it is pretty obvious that he's not really in the shape you would expect from a 100-millionaire professional athlete, right? So it is a little disappointing, and I know at the beginning of the season there was kind of like oh hey, Zion's back, he's putting up numbers again, but I think as people kind of watched him in the in-season tournament, and even when he was putting up the numbers, you're like he's not in the best shape that he could and we would hope from a professional athlete making, on $150 million contract or whatever it is. So, yeah, sucks for him. If the in-season tournament has a loser, Zion's probably the one. I hope he's so fun to watch, or can be fun to watch. I hope he kind of figures it out. Because there is so much talent there. Like, honestly, if he does end up getting in shape, the NBA should, the rest of the NBA should be scared. The last loser, and this is more goofy, legacy discussions are going to suck now. We have yet another thing to bring up when we argue about who's better than who. Is LeBron better than Michael Jordan? Is, Tim Duncan better than Shaq? Whatever. We have yet another thing to bring up in legacy discussions. Again, the honest face is not a bad thing. But eventually someone, and I guarantee you this probably has already happened, like non-ironically, where someone is going to use the in-season tournament and the in-season tournament MVP comparison as a way to prove a point, and it's going to be dumb, and I'm going to hate it. It's to me, it's slightly better. It's not as bad, but it's slightly better than using the All-Star Game MVP as a way to differentiate guys and prove a point in a legacy discussion. I always hate it when anyone brings up, oh, hey, this, Kobe won X number of All-Star Game MVPs. And it's like, who gives a shit? It's the All-Star Game. No one cares. I feel like this in-season tournament and MVP comparison, like in-season MVP isn't quite that bad, but it's down there, right? It's like, oh, hey, this guy won most improved. Like, okay, good for him. But honestly, in the grand scheme, who cares? And again, I'm just waiting where someone non-ironically tries to argue LeBron over MJ using the in-season tournament as any kind of talking point for that. Because that's just hilarious, and honestly, it'll also make me mad. So yeah, there we go. In-season tournament, it's complete. First one down. It was great, and I'm looking forward to see the rest of them. Thank you guys so much for listening. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to follow and subscribe and do all the things on all the platforms. Again, remember this releases on Spotify and YouTube. So obviously, if one doesn't work, the other one is always available. I think next podcast will probably release probably near the end of the year. Either before or after the first of the year, it will depend. But I think it's probably about time to do a power rankings NBA contender tier, kind of check-in, similar to what I did at the beginning of the year. Do a little update, see where everyone's at, make some adjustments. But yeah, until next time, thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed. Have an awesome rest of your week.